Song of the Soul. This is the first reading from the book Power of Purity by Mohanji, which I have here, which is essentially essays and answers on the spiritual path and in particular liberation. And it's a collection of categorized essays which have been transcribed from Mohanji's satsangs when he's talked over many years about many of the topics in our life. And today is the first episode for a series of readings, and it's titled Song of the Soul. So to begin, I'll just read the book, and I hope you can enjoy. And afterwards, we'll have a short discussion. In the spiritual heart of everyone, there is a deep craving for expression. It gets sidelined, nullified, and even distorted in the mental confusion of terrestrial existence. True expression is that of our real self. Man searches for temporary glories, paltry achievements. Man rolls through these short-lived glories till death and continues again in another life. We fail to understand that our mind is lingering in temporary happiness, given by trivial pleasures while searching for permanent happiness. Time after time, life after life, many wise men have tried their best to get man out of his illusion. They tried to guide man to himself or oneself. Still, man cannot understand who he actually is. Many got stuck in ritualistic spiritual practices. Many wandered on the intellectual plane all their lives, which gave them a false feeling of spiritual supremacy and social elevation, mistaking intellectual knowledge for spiritual experience. Many tried to categorize and compare. Very few people reached the other bank of the river using available boat and the boatman. Their only possessions were faith and patience. So simple. That was enough to cross the river. The deepest craving of every man is a sincere spiritual expression. Since it is intangible, man saw tangible terrestrial expressions as a substitute for the real one. It never gave him any lasting happiness, and it also gave him false appetite, which eventually hindered one's spiritual digestive system. So that's the first passage, and then I'll also read something which is even equally as beautiful that continues there. But what I wanted to do in these readings is share something from the book that Mohanji's being put together or has been collected from his works, because they really, really give good clarity on the spiritual journey. Now this begins that in the heart of everybody, there is a deep craving for expression. And this often gets sidelined or distorted in the mental confusion of terrestrial existence. And true expression is that of our real self. Now this is something which I think many people who reach a spiritual path, or at least come to Mohanji, have experienced. I know myself, I'd experienced this. There was always something I was looking for, something I was searching more than the life I was living, which was relatively fairly successful. You have a job, you have a career, you get all the things that you want to do, you travel places, but no matter how much more I got, I still felt empty. In fact, my happiness actually decreased the more I got with responsibilities, etc. So sometimes there's that call from within, which is always looking for something more. I think that's for many of the people who come to a spiritual path. So Mohanji continues in this. So man searches for temporary glories and paltry achievements and rolls through these glories, short-lived, until death continues again in another life. So until one dies, and then we continue it again. So again after again, just doing the same pattern. So we fail to understand that our mind is sat lingering in temporary happiness. Whatever must come will also go, but that's where our mind stays. And many wise men have come to guide people to oneself, and still man cannot understand who he actually is. So this is saying that there's many people, many masters who have existed, and their purpose is really to help guide people to who they really are. And that is, once you remove the possessions, the positions, the relations, it's the essence that's running the show. And there's a beautiful section which I'll continue to read soon. So many people get stuck in ritualist spiritual practices, and on the intellectual plane they wandered, which gave them a false feeling of spiritual supremacy. And maybe you've encountered people like that. Myself personally, I think up until a point I was reading many books trying to find out much information, and this really did give me a sense that I was achieving something, when I realized that all I was doing was just filling my head full of more and more and more information. Because the more we read, the more we collect. But actually what is truly transformational is when we have an experience, not from what we've read in a book, which we then regurgitate to somebody else. So many people, it says, exist like that, which gives that false feeling of some sort of supremacy and elevation, a trap basically. So they mistake that for an experience. So many tried to categorize and compare, and very few reached the bank of the river, so crossing over this existence with the available boat and boatman. So I know when I've spoken to Mohanji before, he always says that the right master for you is the one who comes to you. And so this is, the available boat and the boatman. So the available path and the one who's guiding you. And their only possessions, those who did cross, were faith and patience. Complete faith that that was the right path or the right master or right guru, and then they crossed through that connection. So simple. So the deepest craving of every man and woman, this will include, but man just for the sake of phrase, is sincere spiritual expression. And since that is intangible, man saw the tangible terrestrial expressions as a substitute for the real one. So chasing all of the glories, the positions, the various products which we might buy, places which we might go, relationships that we might have, all is a substitute for that actual real experience of connecting with the self within. So it never gave any lasting happiness. And it also gave him that false appetite which eventually hindered one's spiritual digestive system. So that's the Song of the Soul, and I'll continue now with another, I think, beautiful passage that's been written here, which explains what it is, or what we're trying to connect to when we're saying we're looking for that spiritual expression, or connecting to the soul, the Song of the Soul. So it starts like this. I am the source. I am the powerhouse. I do not become tired or depleted ever. I am just like the candle that can light many candles and still maintain the same glow and glory. Just like one sun gets reflected in many objects without losing its intensity and energy, through the cycles of generation, I exist. I am the string that kept the generations together. I am the imperishable entity in this highly perishable earthly existence. Sun, moon, and stars are formed out of me. Galaxies are within me. All forms of deities are formed out of me. Darkness is non-existence of light. Being me is non-existence of Maya or illusion. I am everything. I am the indweller of all beings. There is no hierarchy or supremacy. I exist with the same intensity in all beings. Beings are different in looks, in feel, in characteristics. I am the same. I am changeless. I am everywhere. I am oneness. I have no form. I assume the form of the vessel that contains me. I assume the characteristics of the being that encases me. Even though I remain neutral always, I empower actions, words, and thoughts. No one can touch or feel me. One can only realize me. One has to become me, reach my subtlety to realize me. One has to shed a lot of grossness to reach me, recognize me, and understand me. I have no agenda. I assume the agenda of the being, and like a faithful, non-interfering servant, the embodied being entity till the end. I serve the embodied entity until the end. I allow myself to be trapped in the body. I assume the body. I allow myself to be called the body. I even pretend I am the limited body. I never interfere. I liberate myself at will. Possessions and money cannot buy me because I am that. Relationships cannot bind me because I am that and beyond that. Whatever you offer me is mine. Whatever you cannot give me is also mine. All are expressions of myself. Nothing is ever separate from me. You can only achieve me by being me. Over time, I have expressed my essence through a multitude of characters in the divine play that I created. I chose the characters, I chose the drama. I have been both the demon and the savior. I have also been the worshipper and the worshipped. My intense form is considered as God. My weaker expression is considered as embodied beings. I am not attached to any of the characteristics that the body portrays. I am beyond all afflictions that the body and mind are vulnerable to. Just like the rain, I enter terrestrial existence. Just like the water becomes vapor, I dissolve in thin air. I come and go out at will. I exist at will and exit at will. Those who have found me recognize me and become one with me, became all-powerful. They will be freed from all terrestrial needs. Elements will not bite them or bother them anymore. Earth just becomes a platform for their seemingly gross expression and existence. Those who only pretend to have become one with me will reveal their anxieties and fears time after time. They will crave for name, money, and fame, using my name and status called self-realization. I cannot be achieved through books or rituals. I cannot be reached by searching outside. I can only be reached through introversion, introspection, contemplation, and meditation on one's own self. I can only be reached through constant elevation of one's deserving levels. Deserving levels cannot be elevated when terrestrial poles are equally strong. So when we have so many desires of what we want to do here on earth. A man who has firm desire to reach me, but also cannot leave the terrestrial vasanas or patterns, will reach only the lower branches of the tree and will never attain the fruit situated in the higher branches. They may see the fruit afar and even boast that they have got the fruit. However, desire cannot become deserving level, and it will definitely show if the society that entertains such people has keen eyes to see the reality. One can only wake up those who are actually asleep, not the ones who pretend to sleep. Only those who have eyes will see. Blind cannot and will not, and that is fine for them. Leave them alone. Do not disturb them. When a man sees his own reflection in all beings around him, and due to that, when love and compassion overflows from his heart, he becomes me. He realizes me. When a man sees his own reflection in the eyes of all beings around him, he becomes one with all the beings. His personality merges with them and theirs with him. All differences disappear, all forms disappear. Then that which remains is pure consciousness, only oneness. In this oneness, all identities vanish. The man becomes me, my form. The man becomes one with the universe. He moves from the ignorance of limited existence to the vastness of superconscious existence. There are no aspirations anymore. There is only awareness of who he is, in his full stature and the associated bliss. Ignorance is darkness, bliss is awareness. Man merges with all entities to form one universal entity. Deserving levels are increased through detachment from all that earth can offer. Being happy, non-resistant, and staying beyond expectations makes one fully liberated. For such a person, existence becomes bliss. There are no worries about one's physical defects or discomforts. And these people fall in tune with the rhythm of creation. When expectations leave the mind completely, I fill in. When resistance leaves the mind, mind becomes subtle and I fill in. When the needs of the body are quiet, I cannot express fully. In that profound depth of silence, the only voice that you will hear is that of my heartbeat. This is the Father of all sounds. The sound and the listener become one. When the sound becomes the listener, we come back home again and realize, I am that. So this is I find a very beautiful passage in the book, in the section called Soul, which is Song of the Soul, which is beautifully explaining that potential that exists within all of us. That realization that we are the soul that is embodied within inside a terrestrial being, and we can actually experience that. And as it explains in this, the Song of the Soul, this can't be reached by books, it can't be reached by rituals, it can't be reached by being bought. It can only be reached by being experienced. And to experience that is to settle within inside the silence within. So it's already there, it's already present, is what it says here. And all that it requires is faith, patience, and that increased deserving level. And that deserving level isn't like good or bad, you know, okay, you got this now, so I'll give you a treat. It's simply deserving from the point of the desire to experience that and the lessening of all of the typical desires we would have in life for money, fame, possessions, you know, certain foods, places to go, etc. So when desires are less, when mind's less, when resistance to life is less, when expectations are less, that means there is more space for this awareness to fill in until we finally become back home again and realize I am that. So I won't go through and dissect all of this Song of the Soul, but it's a beautiful section in the book, Power of Purity from Mohanji, and everything on life and the spiritual path is included in this book. And I think to begin the series, which is one that is taking people deeper into their own spiritual understanding through passages in this book, I think this is a great one to start with. The Song of the Soul, the path, right, or the destination which we're all looking to reach one way or another. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, do share them in the comments on the video. My name is Christopher Greenwood. I'm one of the residents here at the Mohanji Centre of Benevolence in Scotland. I also had the fortune to travel with Mohanji for many years and live with him closely daily and work with him. And so I'll be sharing more of this book in particular, section by section and talk by talk. And if there's anything as well which you would like a topic to be spoken about, which is probably in the book, be happy to share in this series on the YouTube channel. And do stay tuned, sign up and subscribe for many more videos that will come. Jack is here, he's doing a series. I'll also talk more on other topics, and in time the events and practices will also be available on this channel. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that. The first reading from the book Power of Purity, the Song of the Soul. Thank you.